Welcome everyone. We are now live here. Welcome everyone. We are now here live at the Subtropical Gardening Podcast, and today's feature is all about the prayer plant group of plants. And what that means is they close up at night, like praying, and there's a whole lot of different genera, therefore a lot of species and varieties and cultivars. So I will be going through today my tips, how I grow them, the success I have, and let me just move the microphone a little bit closer. The tips I have, the problems that I have, how successful that I am at growing these particular plants, and basically showing the main plants that I grow of this prayer plant group, which is quite a number of genera, as I've said. So, welcome to this podcast. My name is Paul Plant. I've been doing radio for over 20 years. I've been writing for gardening magazines probably in excess of 30, almost 40 years. Yeah, the name is real, Paul Plant. So this is Paul Plant Horticulture, and welcome to the podcast. If you like it, tick it and follow it and subscribe to the podcast. The aim is to release this every single week so that you can enjoy some gardening tips every single Saturday morning. I had a glitch yesterday, hence I'm doing it today instead, which is a Sunday. So irrespective, I will be producing this every single week and hopefully making sure I get it on a Saturday. It looks like the microphone is working today. It failed yesterday, but it seems all good, and I think I'm going to have to get my headphone working next week to make sure I've got the right volumes coming through. Now, to do a little bit about the history or the thing about these particular plants is the prayer plant is the common name, and there's a whole lot of genera or genus that fit within this group. So I'll be talking about the main group that I grow, which are things such as the Maranta, the Calatheas, the Goeppertias, I think that's how you pronounce it. The Pleiostachya, the Ctenanthe or Ctenanthe, it depends again how you wish to pronounce those words, the Stromanthe and the Thalias. And I've got a whole range of plants I'm going to show you, and hopefully that will inspire you to grow more. I'm one of these plant people who go around, and when I see something a little bit different, I will buy it, often to find out when I get home I already have it. But that just means I have a little bit more for my collection to grow. Some of these I plant in the ground. Some of them I keep in pots in the garden, not inside or not on the balcony. I do treat them fairly hard. And because some of them are true tropicals, I'll show you one that's starting to go into dormancy right now. So to give you an idea, we are mid-May here in southeast Queensland in Australia, which means we are going into autumn. The nights are getting a little bit chilly, so some of these plants are starting to go into their dormancy. If you're in May on the Northern Hemisphere, obviously you're going into spring and summer. So your growth is starting to increase, whereas our growth is starting to decline. Now, the thing about all of these tropical plants, they're basically native to most of the tropical areas of South America and into the southern ends of the USA. And unfortunately, none are native to Australia. Drat. But they are wonderful plants to grow. During the COVID period, they became incredibly popular. By the way, this is live, so I might make a few mistakes. I have my water to drink in case I'm going to cough. During the COVID period, they became very, very popular, and people were spending enormous amounts of money for special varieties and cultivars and varieties that look absolutely stunning. And my mouse is playing up again. And some of the other varieties are common, so there wasn't much increase of those. But as gardeners, I'm going to talk about how I use these particular plants, how hardy I have found these plants, and it may be different to you. I'm going to talk about the potting mix I use, some of the pests and diseases I have, and pruning, clipping, and pruning and propagating. So I hope you enjoy the content that we're going to be going through. So, basic care and how I grow them. So I do treat my plants fairly rough and mean, which means I do let nature look after most of it. So I put them in the pots. For example, this is a 140 ml pot or 200 ml pot or different sizes. and then I make sure there's some really good fertilizer in there. So what I use is long life or slow release fertilizer, usually either 6 month or 12 month if I can get the 12-month fertilizer. And the reason being is that I find that the longer they stay in the pot, their root system fills up the pot and they look really good and full in a pot. Whereas if I try to um, keep potting them up, they'll look not as thick and not as lush. I just like the lushness of these. So I kind of keep them a little bit restricted. And I think this one has been in this pot for about 1 year. Hence, the long-term fertilizer is really important. On that, I also boost them along with liquid fertilizer. So I'll either do a liquid fertilizer over the foliage, which is a combination of a seaweed solution plus a fish emulsion, or I'll go to the added expense of buying a complete fertilizer for liquid application. So that will either be in a liquid form or in a powder form, which I have to dilute. But I do rely heavily on top dressing with slow release fertilizers as my backup. And when all the top is full or the potting mix starts to decline after a certain period, I will top it up with more potting mix or do the repotting. So that's kind of like the fertilizer regime that I use. Now, in terms of light, I find that most of these are best under dappled light. And the reason being is full sun is not the natural environment for these particular plants. So they do need a little bit of protection in those situations. A bit of morning direct light is beautiful, then part shade or dappled shade for the rest of the day. So my ideal position where I plant these plants is in areas underneath existing trees. If you've got a bush house or a shade house structure, please put them in there. If you are in a colder climate, you may need to bring them indoors or into a protected area during the cooler months. But take them outdoors and they will enjoy the rainfall, they will enjoy the filtered light, the natural air movement, which is really important for this particular plant, this type of plant. That's the light. At night, you will see them starting to close up a little bit. On very cloudy days, they do not open their leaves as much. That's what I have noticed in my situation here in the subtropics. Um, if I was keeping them indoors, I would try to ensure that there is a really strong lux light providing the intensity needed for the good foliage. When they don't get enough light, they tend to stretch a little bit more. So you find them kind of stretching upwards. So the same species grown in a brighter light. Let me grab it. Where is she? On this side. It's the same genus, the same species, a different cultivar. So a lot more dense and compact, different cultivars of the same species. But that's a good example to show you what light can do for a particular plant. In terms of pests and diseases, what I have experienced is I generally don't have very many pests and diseases because I do keep them well fertilized, so they are growing very well. They get the perfect amount of light, they're getting air movement, which also all of those the combination, it's kind of like the perfect environment for these particular plants, trying to replicate what they have in nature. So they rarely actually have any pests. But I have in the past, when the plants were stressed, had a problem with mealybug in the root systems and in the lower section. So you'll notice, if I can show this correctly, very carefully, the way that the leaves structure their formation, mealybugs tended to accumulate in that area down there. So if you do have that problem, make sure you can find the pest and then control the pest. And I do know that in the nursery industry, they quite often use an ant repellent pesticide, and that works really well at also deterring and minimizing the problems with scale, mealybugs, and aphids. So that's one option. The other option is to treat the mealybug directly with whatever strategy you wish to use, whether it's a pesticide, an insecticide, or if you wish to go for a more natural alternative. Ideally, what we do want gardeners to do is to go for the more natural side so that they are not harming themselves, but also not harming the broader industry, or should say the broader environment. Um, I don't have any other pests or diseases. I have heard overseas when these are grown as indoor plants, whitefly can be a problem. Um, Also, the little midges that fly around, usually the result of the potting mix, but I just don't have those problems. And if it is the little vinegar flies that are flying around, it's usually that the top layer of the potting mix is in the perfect environmental conditions to encourage that particular pest. So what you can do is to keep it a little bit drier on the surface, so that kind of makes the environment not conducive to that little pest. You can use insecticides, but my recommendation is just keep the top part a little bit drier, and you will find that the plants are growing so much better, and you will enjoy it by not having those particular pests in the area. Um, Probably it's time for me to start going through I think I've done all those things. Yes, I have. Um, I'm going to start going through some of the plants that I have to give you an idea of what I grow, what they look like, and some of the features of that particular plant. So I've got some plants in pots. I have some cuttings I did this morning through the garden. So let's see how we go. So the first one on my list is Calathea Beauty Star. Let's have, I've got the right one. Yes, I do. Let me bring it up. Just going to move a few things slightly out of the way. And it's moved. No, that'll work quite well, I think. So this is Beauty Star. I do have a larger specimen, but this was a small one I found for sale at an event just recently. And just the coloration of the leaf is beautiful. It's not going to be too large. For me, too large is 3 meters. This one might maybe reach about 30 centimeters or so. And I think that's the aim that I'm going to go with this particular one. But the pattern is beautiful. And the fascinating thing with most of these calatheas is the underleaf color. It is beautiful. And any plant that has an underleaf color, I love them. I will buy them. No matter what they are, I will buy them. But this one is Calathea Beauty Star. Check it out. You will be able to find it and track it down. The next one on my list is the Peacock Plant. The proper name, we used to know it, and just be aware most plants have gone through a little bit of a name change. So this one is the Peacock Plant, used to be known as Calathea makoyana. And I'm just going to put it in front of the screen in front of myself. There you go. And that's about the size of it. Absolutely beautiful. It has had a name change. It is now called Goeppertia. So Goeppertia makoyana. And it is beautiful, tough. This is one I have outdoors. It is under the slight canopy of some other plants. So obviously it is growing really, really well. That said, we have had an incredibly wet it's summer just recently, and the plants have done exceptionally well. So thank you, Mother Nature, for the tropical plants are saying thank you, as is I. I am sure a lot of people growing other types of plants, they are dreading the weather, but these tropical plants have absolutely loved it. If you aren't getting enough rainfall or humidity, you will obviously need to irrigate your particular plants. So this one is got to say it right. Goeppertia makoyana, also known as the peacock plant. So the next one I've got, let me see if I grab the right one because I sometimes grab the wrong ones for these. La 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 la. Okay, this one. This is Calathea ornata, a name change again to Goeppertia ornata. I love the stripiness of the leaves, very architectural, looks like the bone structure of a fish, and then it's got this little tiny blush of pink through it. Really beautiful. Again, color tone behind. This is going to be a little bit more delicate, I think, but beautiful foliage, nice contrast, something to kind of really brighten up a shady spot because of the amount of silver light foliage in there. Absolutely beautiful. The different shapes of the leaves is what I look for, whether they're big, fat, and bold, and also the amount of reflective light that they can produce in a shady spot is very, very important. So this one is Calathea ornata, also botanically now known as Goeppertia ornata. Moving on to another one is a bit of a collector's item. I was lucky enough to get this one from an avid gardener up near Cairns. Where is it? And unfortunately, it's a true tropical, which means the chilly nights I'm now having in southeast Queensland, it does not like it. Look at this poor thing. I'm going to move it towards the front. It is going through the early stages of dormancy. But if you look at the leaf pattern, I'll find it. Are there any nice leaves? There's one. Extremely hard to find, extremely hard to source. So the new name for this one is Goeppertia pavonii or pavonii. So it's Pavonii. I will be putting all the names of this in the notes for this particular podcast. Really delicate, fascinating little flower. Let's see, they're virtually all finished. They had nice long stalk with this little pendulant flower bauble. Let's see if I can move it somewhere against my hand. And it had little yellow petals that came out. Very, very pretty. As far as I know, it doesn't produce seed. At least I've been trying to collect the seed and nothing has happened. But the pot was completely empty during spring and early summer, and I thought I'd completely lost the entire plant, and I was devastated. And then just before Christmas, it popped up. So it's not lasting very long here in southeast Queensland. I would say it has its foliage for a lot longer during the tropics further north here in Australia. But I'm going to keep it. It's a special plant given to me as a gift. So it's on my special collector's list that I have. And that is Goeppertia pavonii. Yeah. Put it back. It's a bit awkward. Sorry about that. Next on my list is one known as Calathea vittata, now renamed again as Goeppertia elliptica. I think it's had a name change to vittata to elliptica. I might have to double check that one, but I will. So this is very, very similar in its stripy patterns to ornata. So this is ornata, but this is vittata. So ornata, vittata. So similar. Really striking. No pink, no red on the underside, which are two characteristic things you can look for. I have had plants of this in the past, and it did die down in winter in my area. So I'm looking forward to seeing if this is a different genetic strain of it, which I got a few years later than my first one. So I'm hoping this one might be a little bit stronger. We'll see how it goes. I suspect it's also from tissue culture. So who knows, but I'm sure I will find out in due course after I grow my plants through the winter period into spring and summer. So I found these little pot ones at an event at Wondai. And if you go to a garden event, I'm sure you'll find different size pots. Usually, if you go to the big hardware stores or a retail store, they'll only be in a 140 mil pot or in a larger 200 mil pot. So that's the sizes we tend to sell them here in Australia. What's next? My favorite plant. Here we go. A story known as the rattlesnake plant. Just look at this beautiful foliage, dark green with these patterns on it and such a vibrant color underneath. And this is why I love this particular plant. I have had this plant in this one pot easily 5 years. 5 years I have not repotted it because when I initially got it, it had two leaves, just two. And I love the fact that it is so full. It is so robust. It looks fantastic. I'm going to spin it around so you can see it in all glory. And I put it in a red planter box, or planter, I should say. This is a favorite. Just as I said, look at the foliage pattern on that thing. Absolutely gorgeous. So this one I have had indoors in my house for 3 years. During winter, I water it once every 2 weeks. In summer, at least once a week. Extremely low maintenance. I've not had pests or diseases on it. However, it does get a bit of brown tip, and that is because indoors I do not have the same humidity as is outdoors. And that's the one problem I have with it, but I don't care. This is a beautiful plant. Landscapers are now using this plant in a whole lot of landscape jobs, and provided they get shade, a lot of shade outdoors, it is, I think, one of the best plants on the market for landscapers in shady spots. So if you have a balcony, a patio, a veranda, it's on the south side of the house, think of this. If you have a sunny spot inside the house, like near a window, think of this one, the rattlesnake plant, properly known as Calathea insignis, also sold as Calathea lancifolia, but the new name is Goeppertia. Terrible name, Goeppertia. Insignis, and Goeppertia is spelled Goeppertia and pronounced Goeppertia. Go figure. Okay, my favorite plant, without doubt. Okay, next one on my list is Ctenanthe or Ctenanthe burle-marxii, and this is this plant. It is a wonderful plant for landscape jobs. When you have taller plants and shrubs, this is a wonderful ground cover alternative. So there are two main types. Up here, I've shown it before. You have a really dark green effect. And then you have the more popular one that the landscapers absolutely love. Again, beautiful fishbone leaf patterning, absolutely gorgeous, or this really dark kind of, oh, I love both. I really do. I can't choose which one I like the best. But put in the right spot. If it's a darker spot and you need a little bit of brightness, go for this one. If you have a walkway and you've got other plants which are your feature specimens, then this one is the better one because it doesn't distract from what your other feature plants were. So if I had a garden bed full of, say, clivias, beautiful cream clivias or peach clivias, which are bright and showy, I would probably underplant them with this because it's dark and it's more similar to the foliage of the clivia or the clivia plant itself. That would be my option with that particular plant. Whereas this one, I would use more as that's the feature plant itself with this foliage. So this is more of the subdued backdrop plant. This is the feature focus plant. So these ones are the Ctenanthe or the Ctenanthe burle-marxii. Easy to grow. Actually, I haven't addressed propagation. I'll do that at the end. So stay tuned. Okay, what else is on my wonderful list of what I have here? More of the Ctenanthe or the Ctenanthe. So one that I didn't bring up with me is Ctenanthe compressa because it is so vigorous. That is one I'm planning probably to minimize in my garden because it's taken over part of the garden, probably a 3 by 3 meter area, the size of a bedroom, and it's a good it's a good filler, but it just doesn't do anything else for me except it does provide this beautiful tropical effect under a gum tree. So if anyone is watching and they've experienced gum trees, it's actually quite difficult to get something to thrive under a gum tree because when the conditions are fairly dry, the gum tree will extract all the water and all the nutrients and the surrounding plants suffer. Whereas this particular Ctenanthe, the compressa, is tough as nails. Its common name is never never plant because you never can kill it. I intend to kill this one or reduce the size of that particular one I've got growing in the garden. It's just a plain grain, excuse me, plain green leaf pattern. No coloration. The flower is not very impressive, but it's just a nice tropical filler. And I intend to replace it with a plant that I also grow in a pot, but I haven't actually featured with it because I don't have it with me. And that is one of the Pleiostachya plants, which have nice red-purple stems and an underneath with a green on top, and they grow to about 1.5 to 2 meters tall. And I think that's going to be a nice big feature in my particular garden under the area where I'm going to remove the other particular plant. Next on my list is Ctenanthe lubbersiana or lubbersiana variegata, which is, just making sure I haven't forgotten anything. No, I haven't. This one. Okay, I have a couple of different versions and forms of this particular plant, and I like that it's kind of like a limey green color, and I've placed it in an area where there's a lot of dark green in the surrounding zone. So this pops out. It really makes a beautiful feature. The mottled and the patterning of the leaves is quite gentle, very subtle, and against all the other dark green, I think this really makes an impact in my garden. You get some leaves with a little bit more of the light green color, so it looks more yellowy cream, and then you get some leaves that have a little bit more of the darker green on them. So beautiful plant, more delicate, more pretty, but it is one that I love in my garden. So that is Ctenanthe lubbersiana variegata. I may be pronouncing this wrong. I do apologize, folks. Now, a next group, I've got to stop clicking my lips. The next group is Ctenanthe setosa. Now, grey star is one of the most popular forms of this particular plant on the market, and I didn't bring it in here because I've got so many others to show you, but it's a very popular one. And it's called grey star because the main body of the leaf is grey with some veining on it. The original parent doesn't have as much of that grey on it and is, I think, as beautiful as grey star, but they are two plants that are very popular. The one I did bring in is Golden Mosaic. Again, beautiful variegated leaf patterns, a nice yellow to bring in the garden, splotches and splashes of yellow. I've noticed that in different growing conditions, it can look a little bit white and green, but where I grow it, it always looks yellow and green, and I love that fact. I've got it next to a whole lot of elephant ears. That's Alocasia macrorhizas, and the big bold leaves of those contrast really nicely with this, and it kind of gives a more kind of feathered effect. And I kind of like that in the garden. When you look at it from above, it's like a carpet, but when you get down more to ground level, you have this kind of layered effect, and it's very, very pretty. It's kind of semi-delicate, but not quite delicate. A tough plant. This will handle a lot of light. I've noticed that the more light it gets, the more yellowy it looks, which is, I think, quite attractive. I have seen it grown in full shade, and it does lose what appears to be a lot of the variegation pattern. So I do recommend extreme bright light for this for ultimate coloration of this particular plant. Now, also with the Ctenanthe, I've got a miscellaneous plant, and I don't know the name of it yet. And after this program, I'm going to send a text to someone to see if I can find out what its name is. And this is a giant. Look at it. I've got this growing in my garden, and it takes up a lot of area, but it is and that's the flowers. It's absolutely beautiful. To the best of my knowledge, it is a Ctenanthe. I don't think it's a Thalia. I believe it is a Ctenanthe, but I will confirm. I don't think it's a Stromanthe. It might be. Um, but I'll check with the source that I got the plant from and see if I can find out the plant name. And it's, I'll get out of the way. It is huge. So this plant in my garden is about 2 meters high. It's about 3 meters wide. Um, if you've got space, this is a beautiful plant. It's a statement plant. It is huge. Um, it's big, bold, fat green leaves. It's got these delicate white, yellow flowers that just hang right at the end of it. It is broad growing, which means it spreads out. Let me just put it down. It's making a mess. So it comes up from the ground and then spreads out, and then the leaves just hang out and over. So it's kind of like an umbrella shape. And to me, it's this big, beautiful, bold foliage plant, which has these kind of little yellow little dots sprinkled over it, which is the flowers. And then underneath it, it is the perfect conditions for things like Maranta. So they're all related and hence they grow really well together. Now, I will confirm the name of that particular plant and I'll put it on my list when I upload all this and the details. Next on my list, let's see, I'm going to go through to, the, here we are. What most people know is the prayer plant. Might move that a little bit out of the way. This is the traditional prayer plant that most people know. Definitely folds up at night. And two main types. This is the red vein, which is the more desirable one. There is the other one without the green, without the red stripe. It's not as popular, but I think it's also very pretty. But this is the one that was closest to me where I'm doing the recording. I grow it in a hanging basket so it can hang down. It's also easy for me to grab it and take it out to the rain shower. So I've got it in the deck, under the cover, where it's protected. And right now it is starting to show some of the winter dieback. And I'll just go through and clean all of these off, take them off, and it'll be left with some leaves over winter. It doesn't look too good, but it always comes back. So I never throw out the potting mix because you never know what may pop up in spring and summer. Great little plant. Keep a lookout for it. This is the old-fashioned prayer plant that everyone knows about. Yeah, the red vein. Absolutely beautiful. Has a bit of color underneath as well, but this one is grown for the top pattern. I've seen a few landscapers here in Southeast Queensland use it as a ground cover. It works really well. Beautiful contrast to the surrounding area. What else? Now for my Stromanthe. Where's my Stromanthe? Behind me. Okay. So Stromanthe have gone through a bit of a name change again. Sorry about that, folks. So these were known as Stromanthe sanguiana, and they have now had a change of name to Stromanthe Thalia. So this one is known as Magic Star, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. It is tough as nails. The plain green one is the original parent, and it's sometimes, I think it's known as Red Star or Red Fire, or I'll have to remember what that is. But the plain green one is the toughest. Red Flag, I think. Red Flag, that's it. And again, beautiful color on the underside. And what happens is they have a flower right at the top, which is red, a stalk, and plain green one is good. I've got that planted in the garden, but this one, I like the speckleding, known as Magic Star. However, it is not as common in the nursery industry here in Australia, but I think it is superior as a landscape feature plant. What is available in the industry is this one. And this one is marketed as either Trio Star or Tricolor. So you've got these creams, these pinks, the green. It is a beautiful looking plant. And of course, surprise, surprise, color underneath. Again, I plant this outdoors under the cover of a tree, so it gets this kind of dappled situation. So it's also, as you can see, stretching towards the light. If you do grow it in more light, it will be a lower growing plant, more of a semi-ground cover plant, reaching about 30 to 50 centimeters high. But because mine are stretching towards the light, I will get them probably 50 centimeters or taller, higher. I've noticed that in the start of the season, which is that early spring, summer, it tends to be growing very low and tight. Then as it matures into the summer period, which is coming into the flowering period, it starts stretching to put up the flower spike. And also what happens, this long stalk produces, turn it around this way. This is the beginning of the propagating. And because I've got to the end of my little list of the plants I'm going to show you, Let's now talk propagating. So one option is to split and divide. I'll get to that. But since I've got this up, at this point, you can see a node where the swelling is. This is where you propagate these particular plants. So you cut them about 1 centimeter below this node junction, and that is what you propagate into the potting mix. You just cover the base just a little bit. I'm going to grab one of the Ctenanthes, and on this specimen, you would cut it about there. So this is the part that you just put under the potting mix, and it would grow into a new plant. These are very easy plants to propagate by that method. Now, the next method, of course, is when you do repotting. So when you lift the plant out of the pot, you can just divide it based on the rhizome and the clusters. So, for example, this would be one cluster, this part would be another cluster, and that would be another cluster. So I could easily get 3 with no problems out of this one pot. In fact, if I needed to, I'd get 7, because I can find little ones in there that I know that I can successfully propagate from. So propagating is normally done in the warmer season or leading up to summer period. Do not do it in winter. Don't do it in autumn. So right now in May, it's too late. Wait until probably about October is a good time, because that would be the start of the temperatures increasing root system, increasing growth. So the plant is going to do active growth. So wait until that October month, and then you can do your splitting, dividing, and propagating at that time. Now, I think I've covered virtually everything I need to do when it comes to these prayer plants. I've shown you some of the plants that I grow. I've explained to you the light, the watering, the pest, the disease, the propagating, why I love them. My favorite plant, without doubt, for indoors and also as an outdoor plant. I absolutely love that plant. It's tough. I've proven it. I just can't praise it. It's, yeah, love it. Um, I encourage gardeners to consider the prayer plant group for gardening or as a potted feature. As I said, pot feature, or that one, or in the ground. They are a diverse group, multicolored, multifaceted in terms of color, shape, patterns. Some will die down, like the collector one I do have. Some will stay evergreen throughout the year. Evergreen. It is worth a plant to grow. So thank you for joining in on this podcast, the Subtropical Gardening Podcast. If you have enjoyed it, please tick it, please follow. If you've got any questions, please ask. I will do a bit of a cleanup once I post this up. I'll add the name of all of the varieties I do have in here. Once I find out the name of the unknown specimen that I showed, the really big, massive one, I'll add that also into the notes. So thank you for watching. Let me see if I can confirm how long this has been taking so far. It's about 38 minutes. That's a pretty good time period to watch for gardening. So please enjoy and have a wonderful gardening time.